Tonight we're delighted to be able to welcome you to this talk entitled The Barnsley Canal, Its Route and Its History, to be given by canal enthusiast and historian Stephen Woodcock. Stephen was a member of the Civic Trust until he moved away from Barnsley, but he's been very supportive and been very willing to give this talk to us tonight. So I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker, Stephen Woodcock.
Thank you, Alan. I feel like I'm presiding over you. I was going to stand down there. I felt like so many here. I might need a microphone. So can you hear? Everybody hear that? Okay. So, thank you to the Civic Trust for the invitation to come and talk to you here today. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to bore you with too many facts and figures and details, but we're just going to go through the route of the canal, talk something about the history and interesting things along the way. So first slide there, you see that's the logo of the canal. So that's the Durn Aqueduct, which is probably the most significant feature on the canal, and that's a Yorkshire keel with sails, but I don't know if they ever use sails on the canal. So it's a bit fanciful that, but you can just, if you have a look there, there's a horse pulling the boat. So there we go. So that's nothing to do with Barnsley Canal. That boat has never been on the Barnsley Canal, but it's just how I got interested. So throughout my teens and into the 20s, I've always been interested in canals and boating and industrial archaeology. So throughout my 20s, myself and my family, we went on Norfolk Roads many times, hiring boats, and as I approached 30, I thought, well, how about buying a boat? So about 1988, we bought that boat and kept it in Aire and Calder, mainly around Wakefield and Leeds. We had that boat for 18 years. So that was our canal holidays with my two children and my wife. Our holidays were on that boat, so we travelled right through the north of England, down into the Midlands, down towards the Wash, over into the west, over towards Liverpool. Basically anywhere you could get a week out and a week back. So that was the limit of where we could go. So that's the boat in, that's Lenroy Marine, which is on the Aire and Calder navigation, the Leeds section of the navigation. And that's myself and my family, that's in Bretton. So what I remember about that photograph is that we bought an Aberdeen boat because we wanted to travel the length and breadth of the country. We didn't want to be restricted when we came to narrow locks. So in 18 years we only went in one narrow lock. and that's the one. So we came through, we turned around at the top and we went back. But I get a bit nervous there because that boat's going down, the lock's empty. So I'm telling you, pal Graham, get the photograph taken quick because this boat's disappearing. We were with some friends who got a 60-foot narrow boat, and they were the same as us. They'd never been through a narrow lock. They went through the lock, but because of the length of the boat, they had to go a long way from a winding hole where they could turn their boat. So we were stuck there for maybe an hour waiting for them to come back, and it wasn't the nicest place to spend a lot of time. But lots of happy memories on that boat. And there's another one. This is with my mum and dad and the children at the bottom of Bingley 5 rides. So we had one holiday, 10 days, 12 days, 6 of us sleeping on that boat. Well, it was cold, I can tell you that. It was only 25-foot boat, yeah, great time. Right, Barnsley Canal. So this is the logo that you've seen before, and you will see it again as we go through the tour. So, in the 1982-83, the Barnsley Canal Group was formed, and this is a publication that was brought out quite early. So, the group was set up to promote use, protect the route of the canal, promote its possible restoration, but also to organise working groups to clear the towpaths, clear vegetation. So a few years after that, they formed up with the Dove Canal Trust to form the Barnsley Dove Canal Group. Unfortunately, they folded about 2 years ago, but just to mention that the Barnsley Canal, Old Canal Facebook page, is there anybody from here today who... Right. Because if I'm just going to say, that they are doing something very similar to the Barnsley Canal Group.
Yes, somebody here.
Right. So I just want, if anybody wanted to come to see you after to find out more about
that's
what
right.
You pop you. Great, thank you. Yeah. I'm on the group, so I put things as well. Right, just to put the Barnsley Canal in context with the north of England, and I bought a laser pen thing here, but it won't be right moving at this sort of distance, but hope you all can see that. So, over to the left we've got Liverpool, which is at the end of the Liverpool Canal. Over to the right hand side in the east there you've got Goole, goes into the river Ouse, and then the Humber and hopefully out into the North Sea. So that's the canal network as it existed. The grey bits that we show on there, bits that aren't navigable and haven't been formal navigation but haven't been restored. So you see the Barnsley Canal there in red coming from, it joins the River Calder on the Aire and Calder navigation coming round towards Barnsley and then onto Barnsley Basin. A little bit more detail again, we've got River Humber on the right, Barnsley Canal in red, north-south there, but also we've got the Durban Dove which comes from Barnsley down towards the River Don at Swinton. So Wakefield there, the River Calder, Aire and Calder navigation again. It's another talk in itself. I'll come back to talk about Aire and Calder. Now, so in the late 1700s there was a need for better transport particularly to get the coal away from the Barnsley coalfield, and a number of landowners and industrialists in the area thought we need to do something about this. And one of the main people involved in that was Walton Spencer Stanhope with the Canal estate. So he wanted to get transport links to get his coal out of his mines around the Cawthorne Silkstone area, and also he got some ironworks at Barnsley, so he was keen to do that. So he became the chairman of the Barnsley Canal Company and put some money into it, and it was really important for him. So yeah, we're looking at a little bit more detail here now. This is a plan that was prepared in 2004. Barnsley Canal, Dove Canal Group that I mentioned, they managed to get some funding to have a feasibility study prepared by a company called Atkins. And this is a map that was included in that report. So I'll just start, we'll go back a little bit now. That's sort of history. Early 1790s, the group of businessmen and landowners got together. They were working with the Aire and Calder navigation company, who then they commissioned a survey with their own engineers to plan the route from up at the top there, which is that's the River Calder. So they planned the route down to Barnsley to Hoyle Mill and then on to Barnsley Basin near Cawthorne. And following on from that, they also had the engineer William Jessup was involved, who was one of the most significant canal and civil engineers in the country at that time. When he was engineer on other canals like the Rochdale Canal and Cromford Canal, so he had some input. So that was the route. You'll see some things on there that we'll talk about later, but possible Walton bypass, because that section of canal coming up through Walton was built on and couldn't be restored. So we've got 15 locks, which brings us up from the River Calder up onto the top there. If anybody knows, Walton Golf Club and Walton Hall is the summit, is where the level is there. The canal is level from where it's from Walton there. It's level all the way through to Royston into Barnsley, and then as it goes up towards Cawthorne, and then there's 5 more locks in around Bar Green. So nearby the Miller's Pub, Durnhall Road, about 5 locks there. So at that time there were 3 companies wanted to get canals into the Barnsley coalfield. Barnsley Canal Company, the River Don Navigation Company wanted to bring the canal from Swinton into Barnsley. That later became the Durnham Canal. But also at that time, the Calder and Hebble Company, they wanted to bring a canal in from Horbury down into Hague. Now, that never happened. So that these 3 companies all wanted to get into Barnsley. Now, it had to get an act of Parliament to be able to build a canal. So the 3 companies all agreed that for various reasons they wouldn't object to each other's proposals. So the Durnham Canal people, they agreed to the Barnsley Canal on the basis that the Barnsley Canal did not extract any water out of the River Derne. The Calder and Hebble Company, they agreed to the Barnsley Canal on the basis that the Barnsley Canal didn't put a branch to Hague. So that was part of the original plan, to continue up towards Hague from Barnsley Basin and Cawthorne there. That never happened, but they all had to agree, otherwise it would have caused problems when it went through Parliament. So the 2 canals received approval at Parliament in June 1793. So that was the point where they could start building the canal. So Barnsley Canal construction started immediately. They reached Barnsley in about 1798-99. The section from Barnsley towards Cawthorne was 1802. So within the space of 8-9 years, the Barnsley Canal was completed. The Durnham Canal a little bit later than that. So this is a map of about 1894. So we're back in top left is the River Calder, Aire and Calder navigation. The first lock into the Barnsley Canal at the top there, and the canal as it comes round. That's Heath Common on the right, where it says Agbury, just below there, that's where the new Starbucks is, and Neil Fox Way was across there. Similar thing, this is a little bit later, but you've got the River Calder at the top there, and the Barnsley Canal north-south. And again, there you'll view the same location. So Barnsley Canal in red. Right at the top there, you see 2 circles. They're the bases of the Wakefield Power Station. So I'm guessing this is late 90s. I can remember the cooling towers being there in the early 90s. So by this time, they'd demolished the cooling towers, and the canal is infilled along most of that length now. Any rugby league fans, for obviously that's Wakefield, Bellevue, Wakefield Trinity's ground over on the left there. And yeah, so anyway, this is Falling Lock. Falling Lock is the first lock on the Calder and Hebble. And that's the River Calder, which is the Calder and Hebble navigation, and the 2 cooling towers that I mentioned. So the first lock into the Barnsley Canal is just beyond that second cooling tower there. So just to mention at this point, the difference between a canal and a navigation. So, a navigation, like the Aire and Calder and the Calder Level, they have river sections and canal sections. So, canal sections to make the rivers may be variable, water levels. So the canals were built to join up, link up sections to give a guaranteed depth of water and also to cut out long routes in the river. So if you look at maps of the Aire and Calder and the Calder Level, you'll see bits of river and bits of canal. The Barnsley Canal is a poor canal, it's a man-made waterway. This is the River Calder, so we're looking across toward where the Barnsley Canal started. So over on that's on the right, that's where the entrance lock was to the Barnsley Canal. Over to the left is Oakenshaw Beck. When the canal was first built, the first section of the canal used Oakenshaw Beck, but it was subject to silting. So they built a new section of canal on the right hand side there. And this is the river to the left. Lockkeeper's house on the right there to lock number 1. Yorkshire keel boat in the river there. And some cog boats, which the boats used by the boaters on the river sections to when they start to moor up in the river, they could get to the other side of the river, and they also might have used them for transferring the tow rope across the river. So Yorkshire keel boats were the main boats that were used on the canal. It was never really used for narrow boats, so broad beam boats, 60 foot by 14 foot, something like that. And you'll see on the old maps the towing path for the river was on the other side of the river. So they had to have a means of getting the horses across. Sometimes they might leave the horse over that side and get a new horse, but you generally see when you're in a situation like this there'll be a ferry. So that platform there may have been that big a boat, would have been a ferry to get across the river. Same sort of view. That's lock number 1 again. And here we are. Well, this is on the canal now, so we're looking back towards the river. So, it's something I've found. I mean, over the years I've read various books about the canal and various sources, and you'll see conflicting information, and you think, well, what do I believe? Because one source says that those boats, the little boats on the right-hand side there, were rowing boats for hire. No, that wasn't the case at all. They were the cog boats, the bargemen, the boatmen used at the tow behind the Yorkshire keels. When they got to this point here of the canal, they didn't need them. So they'd leave them, either leave them in the river or they'd leave them in the canal and pick them up on the way back. On the left-hand side there you see a horse, and behind, I think there would have been stables on the left-hand side there. So right the way throughout its history, the barges on the canal were always horse-drawn, right up till canal closure in the early 50s. They might have had some motorboats, but it was really, they were horse-drawn boats on that canal. And those boats didn't have engines at that. Coming up towards Walton now, that's Heath Common in the background. That building on the right, that's, if anybody knows that area, that's called the Golf House. There was a golf course on Heath Common, which I found out recently. It's still there, that building. Picturesque view, similar sort of location. And top left there, that's Heath Hall, which has been demolished. Lovers Bridge in Heath. I don't know why they call it Lovers Bridge. I don't know what used to go off there, but a postcard view of Lovers Bridge at Heath. Right, coming along the canal now. This is Walton Colliery in the background there, and Oakenshaw Railway Viaduct. that's still there now, the viaduct, and there it is. And that's a section of the canal that's still in water that goes through Walton Colliery Country Park. It's a car park and some nice walks around. You can walk around the side of the former colliery along the side of the canal. This is Soul House Bridge in Walton. That's also known as High Town Bridge. No longer there, the bridge, but the history about the name Soap House Bridge is that in the early 1800s there was a soap works there. So, back making a soap was a smelly, nasty business, pollution, water pollution, air pollution, and it was on the edge of the Walton Hall estate, which was owned by, at that time, by Squire Charles Waterton, a famous worldwide well-known historian who lived in Walton Hall. Squire Waterton didn't like the idea of having this smelly, polluting business right on his doorstep, so he wanted to move, and for a number of years he battled away. Anyway, he did get them moved. That's the same location, and again there. And he did get them moved, but what he did, he sold them some land at Thorns in Wakefield, on Calder Island. Now, that's where the Nuffield Gym is, and Toby Carvery in Wakefield. So he sold them that land, he did well out of it, he got rid of the soap works and managed to make some money out of them. So that company then became Lever Brothers, and it's now part of Unilever. Not on that side, but Hodgson and Simpson were taken on by Unilever. The irony about this is that after Charles Waterton's death, about 1854, his son took over the estate, spent all the money, left the estate, left it in debt. He had to sell the house and the estate. And who did he sell it to? The family, the Simpson family who've been ejected, so there's been a payback there. And this is the location. This is the site of the Soap House Bridge in Walton. So just to the left there is Walton Sports and Social Club, and behind is New Inn pub. Plenty of the beer. It's nice food and beer there. And they've got a function room called Lock 11 at the pub, which relates to, because there was a site of Lock 11 at that bridge there. Same location again, this housing estate remembers the locks like Walton locks. Well, coming up the Walton lock flight now, as I said, there were 15 locks, bringing us up from the level of the River Calder up to the long section of canal. There's still signs of lock chambers as you walk. The footpath, you can walk up there. So that recess there, that's where the lock gate sat, inside of the lock wall. There's another lock, it's even better preserved than that one, you can see close by to that one. Now, this is the wall around the Walton Hall estate, right alongside the canal, so the bed of the canal is just in front there. So, and again, one of these things where you read in source material that get slightly conflicting information. So, some sources say that this wall was built by Squire Charles Waterton as to create a nature reserve, and he is credited as creating the first nature reserve in the world. That is the fact. But I think it's more likely that was built to stop the boatman from going out into his grounds and poaching. I think that's a lot more likely. It would have served two purposes, but I'm sure they wanted to keep the boatman out, because I don't think they'd have been averse to getting a few pheasants off the estate. This is just next to Walton Golf Club House, so that's the footbridge that takes the golfers over to the first tee, and the canal bed there that's full of reeds. And this is the Walton Hall Bridge, so this is the bridge that takes you down to Walton Hall, goes past the Golf Club House and the Yorkshire Keel coming underneath there. And the same bridge today. And if we look closer, one side of the bridge here is well worn, that's with the tow ropes, the horse towing ropes. And the other side, again, same again, they put a steel plate on it, but that's also well worn. So you just imagine how many boats are going through there to create that sort of way. This is Walton Cutting, so a good half-mile length of canal cut into rock, good 10 metre depth. So you imagine this was built in the 1790s. Just think how difficult it must have been for the navvies to cut into that rock with picks and shovels, and maybe they had some explosives. But and that again, that was one of the major engineering jobs on the canal. And it actually led to a big fallout with the contractor because he hadn't priced for it, claiming that he didn't know the rock was there. But there was a long drawn out court case that wasn't settled until 1812, where the contractor turned and get some additional money to cut that rock out, and it did delay the construction of the canal. But again, anybody wants to go for a walk, park at the Walton end, good towpath, it's on the Transpennine Trail, cycling it, walking it, right the way through to Conley Reservoir onto Nottingham. One of the interesting features on the canal, which I think is unique, is these, when you see these blocks of stone with a wheel on top. Now, they were, particularly around the Hall Park where Walton at, where it's quite some big, very wide in that section of canal. So, had they not had this, the towing ropes from the boats would have cut across the towpath, so the boat would have to take the rope around those. So there would have been a number of these strategic points on the outside, the bends around the canal. And I haven't seen those on any other canals. Other canals have similar devices, but nothing like that. And I don't think it's such a good idea that, because I would imagine it would be quite easy for the rope to slip off that. Some canals you'll see a vertical metal cylinder on a post, which is probably more practical than that. But they're still there, you still find them on the canal. Some really nice bridges on that length of the canal. So this is round Hall Park. If anybody know where Anglers Country Park, Heronry, you can park up there and walk down through the woods and then along the side of the canal. That's Hall Park Bridge and Blue Bridge. So there are 3 or 4 interesting canal bridges in good condition along there. Just watch out for the cyclists. So it might be. Underneath the last bridge we looked at there, there are these grooves in the side, and they are stop planks. So if you think that length of canal without any locks is a good 10 miles, if they wanted to do any repairs, they needed to be able to isolate sections of the canal. And so they dropped planks about 8-inch deep, series of planks into there, so they could drain a length of canal to do some work. Also, if they had a breach, and they did have breaches on the canal for mining subsidence, if somebody got out quick enough, they could stop losing all the water by dropping some planks in there. You also see them at narrows in the canal, where they introduced a narrow section so they could drop some planks in. This is called Hindley Reservoir, so the line of the canal runs across the embankment at the bottom of the reservoir there. Winterset Reservoir is at the higher level on the horizon there. And this is a map about the 1930s of that section, so you've got the canal in north, south, the Cold Hindley, the two reservoirs in light blue. Water supply was always an issue on a canal, as it was on any canal. So the original proposal was to put some steam pumps in where the canal met the river Calder. So the steam pumps would pump the water back up right up the Walton flat, and it's a good way. It's over a mile, probably approaching 2 miles. So they'd have a series of pumps getting the water up onto this level here. That was abandoned. It perhaps might have been cheaper initially to do that, but long term they had the cost of running the steam pumps. So instead of that, they built reservoirs here at Cold Hindley and Winterset, and they were expanded over the years. So Cold Hindley was built first, Winterset after. Winterset was made larger. So every time a lot was entered, they lost so many 100,000 gallons of water, so they had to keep topping the canal up to keep a level. And I mentioned William Jessup earlier. One of the things that he did, he made every lock on the canal the same size, so there wasn't any waste water more than what you needed to use every time a lock was empty. If you see the red circle there, that was the site of an Eacombe and Beam engine. And it took me quite a bit of time to get my head around what was actually happening here, because the blue line that goes from that red circle back towards the canal, that's a feeder, purely a feeder for the canal. The Cold Hindley Reservoir was lower than the level of the canal. So the only way that they could get water out of that reservoir was using that steam pump to pump it back up into the feeder and get it back to the level of the canal. And there's the steam pump. So it was bought second hand from Hale in Cornwall and brought up here to Cold Hindley. And there you see the reservoir at the bottom there, and that's the feeder beside them. So water came from the top reservoir, from the Winterset down the feeder into the canal. Also it was pumped from the bottom level by the steam pump into the feeder back into the canal. And that's the same engine house, and there's another boat on there which wanted, it says Aire and Calder. So that would have been used just to bring the coal to the pump house, because narrowboats weren't really used on the trading vessels on the Barnsley Canal. Coming along the canal there, it says Royston, it's actually called it's Old Royston, that's High Bridge. And that bridge is still there. And there it is now today. I was coming along the canal towards Royston here now, and again I keep mentioning these things where I read source materials that say different things. The canal's quite wide there, it's much wider than what it would really need to be for the boat traffic, but one source says that the canal was built wide to act as a reservoir in itself, because they needed all the storage capacity they could get. Because in the times of heavy rain, they might have water running over the overspills and the locks. So they wanted to have the maximum volume they could get in the canal to maintain water levels. So one source says it was built wide to act as a reservoir, but my theory of thoughts is that because of continual mining subsidies, the canal level because it did drop. But when they did that, they had to build the towpaths and the embankments up higher. So as the canal's going down, the towpaths are getting wide. So perhaps it was for both reasons. Now we're coming into Royston here now, and I thank Alan for providing these photographs, because I hadn't seen some of these until recently. So, Midland Road in Royston. I'm sure a lot of you know that, from Royston, Wells in Royston, heading out towards Rye Hill. Now, this was the bridge over the canal on Midland Road. It hasn't always been called Midland Road, it used to be called Senior Lane. And the reason it's called Midland Road is because of the Midland Railway that passed just a little bit down the road there. So, at some point in time, somebody decided to rename it Midland Road after the railway company. And here it is again, same bridge. The chimneys in the background there, looking back towards Moulton coking plant. Now, one of the reasons, so that bridge was realised in the 1920s as road traffic, size of vehicles got larger, more traffic, that bridge couldn't cope with London, 1930s road traffic. So they decided they needed to do away with that bridge. And they built that. They built that. So in 1934 that was built. So 4 towers, electric on a platform, electronically operated, that went up to let the road traffic through. It was probably down most of the time to let the road traffic through. So that's still got some water in the canal there. So that's possibly, well, it says 51 on the bottom, so that could be 1951. The canal was still navigable in 1951. Same bridge again, a little bit later, no water. And again. Now, I can't remember that bridge being there, but I must have gone over it many times. I think it's staying across there. So I don't know if any of you remember it being there, but it is being demolished. There's no date on there, but it says Royston Skins. So that must skinheads, late 60s, early 70s. So that it was still there into the late 60s. I just can't remember it being there. So that's now gone. So 1934 that was built. The canal was closed. 1951-52. So there's quite a significant structure there that's less than 20 years of use. And that's the same location now. And that's one of my bikes. So that's Midland Road, where the canal, past Midland Road. Coming along now, the canal, which is in water, coming from Royston towards Carlton. Carlton Outward Academy, just towards the left-hand side there. And again, it's a nice walk along there, it's a good surface towpath. So over the years, the local authority has been tasked with maintaining the route of the canal for possible restoration. And they have done that to a certain extent, but there are some areas that have been built on that perhaps they shouldn't have been built on. But this bridge was built, this is the road that goes from West Green up to Carlton, to bottom end of Mount Bretton there. So they did build a bridge on the line of the canal. There's a horse mountain block there, or this mountain block. And the canal went by Redfern's at Mount Bretton. There's no sign of it. You can see there now. Bretton Road in Bretton, the bridge in there where the canal crosses Bretton Road, and you can follow canals in some of my names of pubs. So we've got the bridge in there, Keel, Wharf, Boatman's Rest, Ship. So plenty of examples of pubs in our area that have got names going back to the existence of the canal. This is Mount Bretton Colliery, and the canal running across there. You see in the middle there's a couple of coal loading chutes where the coal was loaded and dropped down into the barges. So at this point, I should have just mentioned that yes, the canal was built preliminary to get coal away from Barnsley into the rest of the country and beyond. It was also one of the things it was coal in, corn out. That was the same. So one of the main trades coming back into Barnsley was coal. Another major one was limestone that I'll mention later. So we had a map of the Hoyle Mill area in 1894. So the Barnsley Canal's coming in from the top right-hand corner there, loops round, coming where the T-junction is there. That's where the Durn Aqueduct is. Going up to the left there is the Barnsley Canal. Coming down to the right, that's the Durn and Duff Canal. And the Oaks Railway, the Oaks Viaduct, towards the right there, some of you might remember that. So down at Oil Mill we've got Woods Glass House, Potters, mainly glassworks around the canal in Oil Mill there. So this is the Durn Viaduct. So we've got the River Durn and the railway passing underneath it there. And that's what we've got now. So the aqueduct piers are still there with a footbridge across the top and the metrodome at the top of the picture. And this is the route of the railway that passes underneath. So the aqueduct piers on the left and right there. That's the Nostril and Stairfoot extension line that heads off towards Barnsley, Staincross. Recently been there's some work there on the surface, we call it the coal line, going down towards Royston. So this is that lock is actually on the Durn and Duff. But and that's the lock keeper's house. You get to see the Oaks Viaduct in the background on the right there. So this was a stop lock. So I mentioned earlier about problems with water supply, but canal companies were very careful and very guarded of their water supplies. So the Durn and Duff Canal is probably 6 inches lower than the Barnsley Canal. So that lock was put there purely to stop the Durn and Duff Canal pinching water out of the Barnsley Canal. That was its sole purpose. So the difference in water level might have been only 6 inch. Same view, the other side there. So the aqueduct was off to the left, Durn and Duff, and the stop lock you can just see in the background there. And I think that was a pub. It's the foundations for it still there. You can still see it at the junction of the two canals there. And this is the same view today. So we're looking for more or less the same location. And you remember earlier we were looking at the stone block with the wheel on top. Well, there's another one there, but it's lost its wheel. So it was really needed there because that's a right angle bend coming from over the aqueduct, turning right onto the Barnsley Canal. Looking a bit more detail, got the aqueduct on the bottom right. So here we are, we're looking at Old Mill area and Harbour Hills Road. So just as we're coming up the canal, just before we get to Harbour Hills, that's where it says Old Mill Glassworks, that was Redfern's. And just the other side there, where it said Old Mill Basin, that's the car park at the back of B&M. And there's some warehouses on the bottom side of that. So Old Mill Lane running left to right in the top corner there. And the triangle between Harbour Hills and Old Mill Lane, that's where the B&M is now. And Derby Paperworks was Star Paper Mill in later years. So, yeah, Redfern's Wharf, so just before, it's just next to Harbour Hills Road, Redfern's before they moved to Mount Bretton. And somebody going on a day trip there. I don't think that would meet what the health and safety standards, so I think they're kind of Redfern's family employees, or could be staff there. So this is the section in between Harbour Hills and Old Mill Lane. The bridge in the background there, that's over Old Mill Lane, and the warehouse is on the left. So if you look, the wall below the warehouse there, that is that wall, which is at the back of B&M car park. It was PC World then, so that's a few years old. So yeah, that's the route to the canal. And if you want to go and have a look there now, the mooring rings are still in the wall. They have been raised to make sure they're still there. And they are. Similar view, that's Old Mill Lane again. Star Paper Mill, unloading hoist there. And the Keel pub on the right there. And most of the boats at this time would have been steel hull, but that's a wooden clinker built boat there. Coming along the canal, Smithies Lane in the background there. I think this is something the Barnsley Canal Group have been looking at recently, because it's that length of towpath been in a pretty poor state. And in the early 80s there was a lot of work done on there with volunteer services, but I think it's deteriorated since then. If anybody wants to go down there with do some clearing up and have some volunteering opportunities. That's a similar location looking up towards Tinker's Pond and the Tinker's Pond Bridge. Now I took that photograph quite a few years ago, but I don't, is it still there? Yeah. And 32 steps bridge, this is below, well, between Smithers and Low Bark, as you come down from Wilton. I remember it being that area being known as 32 steps in my childhood in the 60s, but the bridge certainly wasn't there. So it must have been memorable enough for people to remember it as 32 steps. Just on the canal there, again I remember as a young lad, well, very young, playing and exploring amongst there, down there, and there were some barges buried into the side of the canal with the timber frames of the barges still there. And they'll still be there now, but probably might be buried a little bit deeper, but you could certainly see them back in the 60s. And that's the same location today. That's the bridge over the canal bed. So from this location here, going back towards Low Bark, the canal's gone. There's no sign of it at all there. And I think there's some open cast there at some point, so it's been obliterated, unfortunately. And this is Durnhall Road, Low Bark. So Just to see where the green garage doors are there, the wall that runs alongside of them, that's the line of the canal. So that last pair of semi-houses there, that house is built on the canal. I don't know if the people in there know about it, but that was the line of the canal. And here we are, this is 1890s map of that area, so got the Miller's Pub, Watermill back at Low Bark, coming up towards the junction with Huddersfield Road and the Royal Hotel there. Just something yet again, it's nothing, not necessarily anything to do with the canal, but a few years ago I read something about the watermill. And it said that that wheel, water wheel there, was taken from there and it was placed here. Well, that's the water mill at York Castle Museum. That water mill in itself is a reconstruction of the mill from Reindeer Mill from North Yorkshire. I don't know when I read that, and I haven't been able to find it since, but I can imagine it could be true. I think the wheel that's there now is not the one that came from Bark Green, but it's similar to it. So it might be a reconstruction of that water wheel. I'll just go back. So we're talking about water supplies. Throughout, whenever there were canals that built, the people running the water mills were very protective of the water supply because they thought that the canals were taking the water out of the rivers that were powering their water wheels at the mills. And there was quite a lot of conflict over the years between the millers and the canal owners. So there were 5 locks coming through Bark there. This section of the canal was the last to be completed in about 1802, but it was also the first to close. So the section between Barnsley and Bark and onto Cawthorne was closed by 1893. So it had less than 100 years of life. Similar sort of area, so here we are coming along from Bark. Dark blue line toward Barnsley Basin, that's the road between Bark Green and Cawthorne. And the blue line going north-south there, that's the approximate line of the M1. And you'll see on there, right on the bottom left, Stanhope Colliery. That was one of the collieries owned by the Canal Estates. Photograph here about some of the buildings at Barnsley Basin that were there in the canal time, and they're still there now. So this is where the wagon way, Suxton wagon way, started, where the canal ended there. And a map of that area, Barnsley Basin, so some of those buildings are still there that we saw in the photograph. The building with the elevation on the bottom right there, that's the warehouse that was on that site. Also, there was a pub attached to that called the Jolly Sailors. Surprising when you look at old maps of canals, how many pubs there were. In locations where you wouldn't have thought they've got that much trade, just next to Aire Lock. So I think the boatman must have had quite a thirst. Yeah, so lime kilns there. Again, green limestone was a fairly major trade on the canal. So lime was burned there for building industry, for cement, for lime wash, but also lime was heavily used in agriculture as a fertiliser, as a treatment. That's very important. And an area will be with the same location today. I'd like to go around there and have a bit of an explore, because you can't really see very much from the road, but some of those buildings were there at the time of the canal. And that's the building that we saw earlier with the warehouse at Barnsley Basin with the Jolly Sailors pub attached to it. Now, the Silkstone Wagon Way, so from Barnsley Basin up towards Silkstone and then going up towards Silkstone Common, there was an inclined plane, so it was too steep because they were horse drawn, the wagons. So an inclined plane went from Silkstone, now where Tom Horsfield's Pothouse Hamlet is, Silkstone Cross, going up towards Silkstone Common, and they had stationary steam engines that hauled the wagons up. So the date of 1809 is significant there because even though the canal to Barnsley Basin was completed in 1802, very shortly after that, the colliers in that area were failing, and they then had to find another way, making use of that canal. So they built the wagon way to get the coal to Barnsley Basin, and so after a period of little use, it started trading again once they could get the coal from the wagon way down to Barnsley Basin. And that's the reproduction wagon at Silkstone Cross. Crossroad from the petrol station in Silkstone. Right, we're getting towards the end of the canal now, and so again, the Durn Aqueduct. So over the years, the canal was subject to serious mining subsidence, and a number of breaches, collapses that were repaired over the years. And this was a major breach in 1911. This is at the end of the aqueduct. So very significant. But that, and again, same view, that was repaired over a number of years, and the canal went back into use. Same again. So the canal traded through the 40s, into the early 50s. There was this is Littleworth, there was a major breach at Littleworth in 1946. That really spelled the end of the canal. So it traded on into the early 50s. You couldn't just close a canal, you couldn't just walk away and say, "Alright, we've had enough with closing that canal." You had to get approval of Parliament to close the canal, and that was granted in 1952. So that was the point when navigation ceased on the Barnsley Canal. And here we've got some photographs of demolition. And again, health and safety, I'm not quite sure that. Is that man's body tied up the top on it? No hiding, no hard hats. But they had to keep that railway running. You're looking from the stopwatch back towards the aqueduct there, and Bretton in the background. And here we are, steam trains running. So I guess that 1952, 53, something like that. And the aqueduct appears before they put the footbridge across, and the footbridge. So I mentioned earlier the Atkins report that was prepared in 2004. So they looked at ways of bringing the canal back into full use with some costs and some looking at alternative routes to bypass the areas that were completely infilled and had been built on. One of the significant ones was the Walton, possible Walton bypass there that you see in red towards the top. Another option was to bring the canal into the lakes at Walton Hall, which would have been interesting. But so that bypass would have required a lift back up to the canal equivalent to 12 blocks, so that's quite, each block would have been 89 foot, so quite a significant, it would have quite a significant engineering solution had to be thought of to get the canal back up there. And one of the things that they suggested was one of these, and that's an inclined plane. This was the inclined plane at Foxton on the Leicester branch of the Grand Union. That no longer exists, but that's the sort of thing that Adkins was suggesting could have been built in Walton to replace the 12 blocks that were built on there. But there was also a suggestion that the Barnsley Canal could have had an inclined plane, but that never happened. So these are, you've got a boat, and possibly two boats in there. It's a narrow canal, so they counterbalance the caissons. But I think that would cost many millions. It's not going to happen. And there we go. That's the end of the talk. So,
well, I mean, I'm fascinated by all that, I must say.